to me, these are Marxists. They think, they want to raise up this group of activists. They want to totally tear down all types of identity, because so now we have to, and these are their words. I've been reading the papers of these like queer theorists or whatever, which is where a lot of this stuff comes from.
Queer theorist.
Yes. So, you have critical race theory, and then you have queer theory. Queer theory, critical race theory says we want to tear down the systemic, all the systemic norms and systemic racism. Queer theory says that we want to tear down heterosexual norms because they say that children aren't naturally heterosexual. So you should queer them. And part of the queering is this idea that they kind of, this is true. These are their words. This is not me making it up.
That's the problem with theories.
They do. Well, Marxism. This is critical theory, legal theory. All of these little theories and stuff that they use to agitate society, tear down all types of norms and stuff like that. That just aren't. It's not what American society wants. We don't want these kinds of things. What are your thoughts? The critical race theory thing has been a big thing. That's something that I have spoken openly about. What do you think about critical race theory and that whole thing?
I don't really care too much for it. I think if you want to talk about critical race theory, keep it in college. Don't bring it to high schools, and definitely don't lie to people and tell people who's teaching Black history, because that's the biggest crock of crap that anybody has ever heard, especially if you're familiar with it. Never have been a fan of critical theory, even critical legal theory. I don't think that is accurate. I think that it's like a ploy to take people off the fact that we've had politicians who have sat in office for years and years and years and done nothing about the laws that are on the books. Because if critical legal theory or critical race theory studies the impact of laws, which may or may not be racist, on the society and on Black people, then the only way to reverse that, so we don't even have to talk about it, is just get rid of the laws. Plain and simple. But that's not what we see happen in Congress. People always make new laws, or they pander, or they push an agenda to make some person feel like they're less than what they are because of something that they happened in the past. Even when we talk about the entire United States history, the entire history of the United States isn't even being told. Only part of the history is being told. Everybody, they're being taught that every single Black person came here by way of slavery, which is the most inaccurate crap that I ever heard in my entire life. Even according to the Library of Congress, like, nobody want to teach the truth and nobody want to believe the truth. But that's what's been happening in the United States for a very long time. But I mean, it has to be corrected. It will be corrected eventually. But people don't read. People just don't read.
That's true. Well, because we have trash education systems. We have trash.
True.
We have good. I think there's good teachers. But the teachers have been we have this thing now. It's like whatever the expert says, it's like whatever the person with the PhD says, we're just going to believe. I mean, we see this with the COVID stuff, it's like the mad scientists, if they have like a bunch of letters behind their name, it's like whatever that expert says, we're just supposed to believe them. And the reason why we have, I think, the reason why we have so many people who think that critical race theory is either A, not really being taught, or B, it's simply about teaching true American history, you're right. People don't read because it's all about like passing a test now. It's not about critical thinking. It's not about teaching children how to think. It's not about getting them excited to learn. I pulled my daughter out of, so I have two daughters. My youngest daughter is a special needs child. I put her out of public school about 4 years ago. So I've had my battles with the public education system for a very long time. And then my oldest daughter was still in public school, and I pulled her out 3 weeks ago. Do you know? So of course she did not want to go to, so she's in a homeschool co-op. She was like, oh my God, Mom, I don't want to go. I don't want to do it. I'm like, trust me, you might not like it now, but you'll love me. You'll thank me later. 3 weeks, only in the school for 3 weeks. she texted me. She goes, low key, mom, I'm really starting to enjoy my love for learning is starting to come back. I mean, I could have cried, Joe. I really could have. This kid is like reading her history book for fun. Like, that's what learning should do. Like, it should make you want to just consume it. You know what I mean? Not feel like it's such a burden. But you are right. People don't read. They don't read. And this is part of the reason why the education piece is so important to me, because we're all of this, even your candidacy, candidates that are running, the education piece, this is all geared towards the next generation. All of these things, we are raising leaders. So if we don't get this right now and elect the people who are going to change the laws or get rid of some of these ridiculous laws, or put some laws in the books that block a lot of this Marxist crazy nonsense, and actually get some real education, what are we going to do? What do you think of future? How does America look if we don't change what's happening? Like, what does that look like?
It looks
I
like
know that's a loaded question, but
you'll just have the next wave of politicians staying in office for another 30, 40, 50 years. I mean, that's what happens. You raise a society of ignorant people. The people who train to be ignorant, they're going to be the people who are going to be in office. And those guys who make it into office during that time period are going to keep getting elected over and over again. I mean, it's, I'm not going to say that, teachers are bad. You have a lot of teachers and they have great intentions, but the ignorance in the education system is still going to be there. So you got to have a teacher with great intentions who is still ignorant because it comes directly from the education system, and they're not questioning what's being taught or what's being put out as the curriculum for these schools. So unfortunately, the brainwashing is real. The great part about it is there's only a small percentage of Americans that will be brainwashed, and it happens over and over and over again. Like I was telling a friend of mine earlier, she said capitalism is like a stint that leads people into poverty. And I told her, no, it's not. And I told her anybody can be a capitalist. And she's like, everybody can't be a capitalist. I said, no, everybody can be a capitalist, but everybody is not going to be a capitalist. Some people are just made to work. Some people are made to be left alone. Some people, unfortunately, are made to be homeless. And you have other people who are made to, create businesses. And she goes, well, what about the wealth distribution? The people who makes the businesses pays the people less than what they're worth. And I said, the people who create the business takes all the liability. And so, yes, they pay that person for what they're worth. And unfortunately, if you have no education, if you have no skills, and guess what? You're not going to get paid a lot of money. Why should a worker at McDonald's get paid $25 an hour when I have an engineer that's getting paid $25 an hour? And hypothetically, the engineer has a lot more education than the person working at McDonald's. And McDonald's is not a career choice to where anybody should want to work to retire. I think children should be working at McDonald's, or senior citizens who want to keep busy should be working at those low-end jobs. When you talk about high-functioning adults, you should absolutely want to do something that's going to, add value to your life and lives to everybody else. But if you're giving everything away for free, then the value is lost. I mean, look at Section 8. The idea of Section 8 was great, but people just get it like, oh, it's a freebie from the government. And like, no, it's not. Section 8 actually comes from taxpayers. But since we're giving it to you, anything that comes with Section 8 is never going to be good because it has no value to people because it's free. You don't have to work for that stuff.
Right. Yeah. There are some really good principles, even if you're not a Christian. I am a Christian, but even if you're not a Christian, there are some really good principles like in the Bible. And the Bible explicitly says, if you don't work, you don't eat. And the principle of that is that work, there's value in that. There is value in being skilled at something. And I mean, I don't care what it is. I mean, if you lay carpet, if you are a garbage man, if you are a plumber, or if you're an engineer, if you're a general contractor, whatever the skill is that you have worked to hone and be good at, you can take that to the market and sell it and be paid for your labor. And it's so funny to me that unfortunately, so many Black Americans in particular have this, they've throwing their nose up to capitalism when capitalism was the thing that created, remember, they always talk about, Black Wall Street. It's like, well, what do you think created Black Wall Street? Capitalism. Exactly. It's like, why are you shunning capitalism? And you listening to these Marxists, because that's what they are, try to make you believe that capitalism is a bad thing. It's like you're talking out of two sides of your mouth. Oh, we're the Tulsa and Black Wall Street. It's like, okay. And then the other, 2 seconds later, you're like, well, capitalism is bad. It's like, okay, but that's what created those cities, those neighborhoods had the million, it was more than just in Tulsa, but that's what created that. And it's like, again, it goes back to education because people aren't reading. They don't know their own history. They don't know the own history that they're shunning.
Yeah, true.